Number 10. John Mayer. John may be known for spending time with the ladies, but it's not all peaches and cream. The musician was doing an interview with Playboy magazine in 2010, and now I know it involves Playboy, who are notoriously provocative, but even they thought this interview was just a bit too much. John gets into some pretty graphic depictions of things that he wanted to do to Jessica Simpson, using language that cannot be repeated online. He then ventures off the physical intimacy side of things and instead begins to speak about his, and I quote, hood pass, claiming that he had become so popular among black people that he could get away with anything he wanted. And then he called it an N-word pass. Following the interview, fans were beyond upset at his behavior and his attitude towards women. Many turned on John, making a massive dent in his career. Nowadays, this is one of the only things John is remembered for. Well, that and Your Body is a Wonderland, because it's a pretty catchy song. Number 9. Paris Hilton. Paris is the originator of the phrase famous for being famous. This woman made headlines many times over the years for a little bit of everything. In 2011, Paris appeared on ABC to discuss her career, personal life, and the recent situations that she had been dealing with involving stalkers. During the interview, she revealed a few things about her life that had previously been speculated, like the fact that she used a higher-pitched baby voice on the show Simple Life, but in real life had a much deeper and more serious tone. But the conversation eventually ventures into uncharted waters. The interviewer asked Paris if she felt that her former friend and protege Kim Kardashian had overshadowed her in the eyes of the media. Paris says nothing, looks to her publicist, and goes to stand up. They almost wrapped the interview entirely, but eventually things simmered down and they were able to clear things up. However, the moment stuck with fans of Hilton immediately and begged the question, why is she so uncomfortable to talk about this, and is it because it's true? Well, it turns out that the world answered that question for her, as Kim's show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, made it big, and Paris Hilton's show was cancelled after one season. Number 8. Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey, known for his hilarious personality on and off screen, gave Kat Sadler from E! News and Daily Pop an awkward interview on the red carpet at Harper's Bazaar party in 2017. The interaction started with Jim slowly circling Kat as she attempts to express her confusion and excitement that Jim Carrey was at a Fashion Week event. Was this man known for being an incredible artist, bringing his talents to the fashion world? No, he was just in a mood. By 2017, Jim had made a name for himself as an oddly serious guy who tended to venture into the realm of energies and universal concepts when he started getting into deep conversations. He started the conversation with, "This is meaningless," and then he continued to say that he wanted to find the most meaningless thing that he could attend that night. The event was a celebration of icons and celebrities, according to Kat, to which Jim said he did not agree, as in he didn't agree with the concept of icons or celebrities. He continues to give a small speech about not believing that people are actually real and that we're a field of energy and that peace lies beyond personality. Sorry, I'm feeling woozy just talking about it. The entire time this interview is taking place, Kat is visibly uncomfortable, just counting down the moment that Jim says something funny or even remotely related to fashion. Instead, he just shares his thoughts, tells her that she has a nice fragrance, and then he walks away. While Jim's career had already started to slow down at that point, the clip became viral and studios were wondering if he was a good fit for any role anymore. Many scripts with his name on it were then rewritten or simply kept to themselves, right up until 2020 when he made a small comeback in the surprisingly fun movie Sonic the Hedgehog. Number 7. Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin is a very eccentric man, and he's genuinely a really just wonderful performer. Her is a weird dramatic movie that everyone should definitely see at least once. While doing press for a film in 2009, Joaquin was making an appearance on the David Letterman show when David noticed the actor had drastically changed since his last appearance on The Tonight Show. He was wearing sunglasses, he had spawned a big beard and long hair, and it sounded like he was chewing gum the entire time. When David asked Joaquin if he was doing alright, he responded with a muffled, "Yeah, I'm okay," in grand Joaquin fashion. This pattern continued as David goes over his accolades and discusses the announcement Joaquin had made a few weeks prior that he was quitting the acting world forever. It turns out that he was planning to shift his focus into the music world, specifically hip-hop, wishing to be a rapper. Does that make sense? After roughly 10 minutes of screen time, the interview wraps up with sarcasm and a clip from his new film, Two Lovers. Following the interview, many were concerned that Joaquin was maybe under the influence of something, or maybe just he was under anesthesia because he was so quiet and dark and anyway. But it turns out that he was attempting to perform a spoof. According to Joaquin, the entire incident was staged to promote another film that was in the works called I'm Still Here, where the character in the film acts in a very similar manner. Despite the reveal of this being a staged interview, it only made Joaquin look like a wacky whack job. Number 6. Megan Fox. Megan has been featured in several films over the years, but it was an interview about her time working with Michael Bay on the Transformers set that canceled her for good. The original live-action Transformers movie came out in 2007 and co-starred Megan and Shia LaBeouf in the leading roles. Now, it was a fun movie on screen, but behind the scenes there was a ton of tension. According to Megan, who had previously worked with Michael on Bad Boys 2, working with Michael was like working for Schmittler. Fun fact, if you put sh in front of someone's name, you can say it online. Loophole. Of course, Michael didn't appreciate being compared to one of the worst men in human history, so many speculated that her being left out of the third movie may have had something to do with the behind-the-scenes drama. She went on to call him bland and claiming that he had no personality or social skills of any kind, which is just rude. When the comments were made public, her career began to slowly suffer. Not only was she written out of the Transformers series, but she was forced to make a public apology and retracted the statements following the massive slew of backlash. She took a few years off, but Michael himself later acknowledged the missteps on both their parts and not only accepted the retraction, but the pair were able to patch things up and work together on the live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. Awesome! Number 5. Jesse Eisenberg. Jesse may not be the busiest bee that he once was, but that's probably because when he's off camera, he's a little stingy with the details. While doing an interview with Romina Puga for her online series Say My Name, Jesse was promoting his new film, Now You See Me. From the moment the camera rolls, Jesse is just obviously annoyed with the situation and with Romina herself. When she refers to Morgan Freeman as Freeman, he asks if she's on like a baseball team with him or something. What's wrong with referring to someone by their last name, huh? Eisenberg continued to poke fun at Romina as she attempted to do some sleight of hand magic, accidentally revealing some scribbles written on her palm. Jesse berates her for being so forgetful that she had to write things down on her hand and then asks her not to refer to Morgan Freeman as Freeman again. When she asks Eisenberg to do a card trick he learned on set, he compared Romina to the comedian Carrot Top, who's universally panned as a terrible comedian. If you're watching this, I'm really sorry, Carrot Top. Also, Carrot Top watches my videos? When the trick is done, Romina doesn't play along, further frustrating Jesse beyond belief. What's funny about this interview is it actually impacted both people involved. While Jesse continues to work, it's in a much smaller capacity, and his hits are few and far between. Meanwhile, Romina received lots of flack for delivering such a bad interview that she eventually stopped doing the show altogether. Number 4. David Letterman. Now, David Letterman has been around for a long time, and while he did eventually get replaced with Stephen Colbert, it was after many years of being extremely odd towards his female guests. There are several examples over the years of David being just a little bit too intimate with his guests, including a time when he would not stop telling Jennifer Aniston how good her legs looked in her dress. He literally told Madonna to go kiss a man in the audience. He called Keira Knightley a lovely offering. He told Dolly Parton that he wanted to see her sweaty. The list goes on. It took way too long for someone to realize that this man was just a bit too open at times, sharing way too much information. One thing he continued to do right up until he retired in 2014 was show revealing or intimate photos of his guests without their knowledge. Like when Emma Watson was forced to explain a wardrobe malfunction after David pulled out a photo from a recent red carpet event. He brushed people's hair, he made dirty jokes, and seriously, this dude was obsessed with legs. In fact, one of the last interviews to ever take place on the show with him was with Jennifer Aniston, and he just sat there complimenting her looks for basically the entire thing. While his career was never destroyed, I thought that it would be worth a mention because this is a list of people who have done some scummy stuff on the air, and David is no exception. Number 3. Robert Pattinson. Now, I will be using the term destroyed loosely here as this incident did destroy his reputation, but he was eventually able to make a comeback. In 2018, while promoting the Twilight sequel New Moon, Robert made an appearance on the Tyra Banks show alongside his co-star Taylor Lautner. Now, things are going smooth until something takes Tyra over. She tells Robert that she wants him to bite her right on the neck, like a vampire. Well, Rob hesitates for about 3 seconds and then chomps down on Tyra for a moment. The clip is lighthearted and Tyra is fueled with joy, but according to members of the production team, Summit Entertainment was not happy. Robert was scalded by the director and his team of agents who had not given Robert the green light to bite a woman's neck on television even if she literally asked him to do it. This caused a lot of personal issues for the people on the Twilight team as they wanted their film to be seen as a serious dramatic piece, yet Robert was playing vampire for fun with Tyra Banks. As I said, this interview did impact his career, but in a different way. As the Twilight movies continued, Robert was offered small roles here and there, but thanks to this interview with Tyra, he was no longer some young-faced actor the studio could just manipulate. He was Robert. His career eventually picked up outside of the young adult book world, and he is now a very bankable man in Hollywood. Number 2, Katherine Heigl. Kathy was riding high back in 2007. The former Grey's Anatomy star not only won an Emmy for Best Supporting Actress in a Dramatic Series, but she also began transitioning into the big screen with the success of her first feature comedy, Knocked Up, alongside comedy legend Seth Rogen. Unfortunately, her rise to the tippy top quickly became a free fall into a volcano, following an ill-fated Vanity Fair interview in 2008. In the interview, Katherine made a move that still has people scratching their heads to this day. She openly bashed the film that made her famous, claiming that it painted women as shrew, humorless, and uptight, while also placing blame on Seth Rogen for writing the men as lovable, goofy, and fun. The film still sits at an impressive 89% on Rotten Tomatoes because while she may claim that the project was problematic, the final product was actually a really fun love story filled with some solid jokes, performances, and a great story at its core. Seth felt betrayed by the comments as they never had a fight on set, and it never seemed like she was uncomfortable at any point. These comments, combined with some negativity towards her Grey's Anatomy writers, caused her agents to drop her as a client, and her time in Hollywood quickly came to a screeching halt. And at number 1, Kanye West. Kanye was slowly going mad in the eyes of the public way back in 2010. As the years went by, he made more and more appearances on TV, but it wasn't until 2018 where his political beliefs got him heated on Jimmy Kimmel Live. When Jimmy asked Kanye how he felt about the response to his decree that he was all for President at the time Donald Trump, he was largely criticized. He defends his statements by claiming that he did not have to conform to some united mindset and that he was a little bit upset at the backlash, but that a part of him kind of enjoyed the hate. He then suggested that the world was in a simulation, claiming that it's filled with unpaid actors. The over 20-minute interview is filled with metaphors, the concept of love, and a comparison of himself to the Son of God. This interview was only a short time after his anti-Semitic tweets were circulating the internet. He even makes a joke about the anxiety of asking his publicist to appear on the show. He was fairly calm in his delivery of his opinions, but he made sure his opinions were known. Number 10, Megan Fox. Megan has been featured in several films over the years, but it was an interview about her time working with Michael Bay on the set of the Transformers movies that canceled her career for good. The original live-action Transformers movie came out in 2007 and co-starred Megan and Shia LaBeouf in the leading roles. It was a fun movie on screen, but behind the scenes there was a ton of tension on set. According to Megan, who had previously worked with Michael on Bad Boys 2, working for Michael was like working for Schmittler. Fun fact, if you add sh to someone's name, you can say it online. Loophole. Of course, Michael didn't appreciate being compared to, you know, one of the worst men in human history, so many speculated that her being left out of third Transformers movie may have had something to do with behind-the-scenes drama. She went on to call him bland and claimed that he had no personality or social skills of any kind. Like, hey Megan, that's just a little bit harsh. It's a little personal. When the comments were made public, her career began to slowly suffer. Not only was she written out of the Transformers series, but she was forced to make a public apology and actually retract her statements following the massive slew of backlash from fans. She took a few years off, but Michael himself later acknowledged the misstep on Megan's part and not only accepted the retraction, but the pair were able to patch things up and work together on the live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies from 2014. Yay! Number 9, Cara Delevingne. Cara is a gifted actor and overall seems like a solid human being. So much like the rest of us, she gets tired and annoyed from time to time. Unfortunately, that feeling took place on live TV while promoting her new movie, Paper Towns. While making an appearance on the early morning show, Good Day Sacramento, the interview did not get off to a great start. The program's anchor called her Carla, and she then spent the next few minutes trying to get info out of Cara, but was failing miserably. Falling deep into the anchor role, she pulled out the old, hey, wow, that's amazing. Hey, listen, Carla, did you read the book that this thing's based on, or did you even have time to read because you're so busy? She was having none of that. She was very sarcastic with each answer to the fairly generic questions. Do you relate to the character? What was your favorite moment? Blah blah blah. It was then that a third anchor abruptly popped in and asked Cara if she was exhausted, as she seemed a bit more excited to speak about the project a few weeks prior in London. She giggled and said, "No, I'm fine." Apparently the premiere of the film was the night before, which she claimed to feel like the end of an era. But the anchors do not know when to quit. In fact, one of the anchors then suggested that she may be irritated, or maybe it was just them. They then cut the interview short and told her to take a nap and get a Red Bull. She can be heard saying, "Oh my god, too far," before the news anchor screeches over her and shuts her down. According to Cara, there was really no bad blood. She was just sick of answering the same questions over and over again. Following the interview, the man who popped up and gave his 2 cents was fired for causing such a tense situation on live TV. Number 8. Mike Tyson. Now, I had trouble landing on just one interview to mention when it comes to Mike. He's someone who seems to bounce back even after the most heinous of controversies, so we're just gonna run down through a few good ones. The first time Mike really hurt his career was in the late 80s, and it wasn't even something that he said. He was doing an interview with his then girlfriend Robin Gibbs when the topic of Mike's behavior came up. She said herself that Mike had an extremely volatile temper, and recently reports had surfaced of Mike getting loud and physical with her. Something she seemingly confirmed while Mike was just staring the interviewer down the entire time. Very intense. That was the first little notch on his belt, but as the years went by, more and more controversy came to light. During a press tour for his latest bout in the early 2000s, he lashed out at a fan in the crowd, hurling a slew of insults at him and calling them the British word for cancer sticks. It starts with an F and it rhymes with maggot. The clip became viral overnight and placed his career even further into jeopardy than it already was. But he finally drove the nail into the coffin on CP24 breakfast television in 2014. After somehow maintaining enough relevance to get a one-man show, Mike was sitting down with host Nathan Downer to promote when the interview took a hard left and went from, "So, what's the show about?" to, "So, should you even be allowed on stage, you monster?" That's not what he actually said, but that's what Mike heard. He stopped answering the questions honestly, and he would instead hurl insults sarcastically. The F word is once again his favorite. I don't know if you've noticed, but Mike hasn't been on the news much since that day, and for very good reasons. Number 7. Rachel Zegler. Rachel Zegler's comments about the upcoming live-action Snow White remake could have a huge impact on ticket sales, according to branding experts. The 22-year-old actress has received plenty of backlash after she admitted that she hated the original 1937 movie and branded the storyline weird, while referring to the Prince character as just a straight-up stalker. The backlash occurred after several videos of Rachel speaking negatively about the original film in various interviews last year resurfaced online, where she talked about her version of the character. She said she's not going to be saved by the Prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. While Disney may just be trying to modernize the classic, the comments were causing her to be labeled a fake feminist, with some critics accusing Rachel of gaslighting, and one marketing consultant has warned that Disney will need to be careful on how they have portrayed Snow White. Snow White has already been suffering from backlash well before Rachel made her comments. Peter Dinklage spoke out about Disney not using dwarf actors for the new film, instead opting to use heavy CGI on Hollywood elites. Rachel's role as Snow White is currently up in the air, because while the film is set to be released in March of next year, the writer's strike may be the exact situation that the studio needs to recast and rewrite its oldest character. Number 6. Liam Neeson. Liam may have spent a long time as a dramatic action star, but his most dramatic moment yet came during an interview published by The Independent. He was promoting his new film, Cold Pursuit, which follows his character seeking retribution after his son is slain. When he was asked how his character turns to anger, he replied by telling them something primal kicks in when someone close to you is a victim of violence. He then shared a true story about a close friend of his admitting to a physical altercation with another man a few years prior. When he heard the news, he said something took over him. When he asked her if she knew what his name was, she said no, but she knew what color his skin was. After using some very offensive language to describe this man, Liam then admitted to spending the next week carrying around a small baton and praying that, quote, a random black man would cross his path. The article began circulating fast, and Liam received a tidal wave of backlash Backlash. Since 2019, he has starred in a few films, but nothing as high budget or universally liked as his previous roles. Number 5. Katherine Heigl. Kathy was riding high back in 2007. The former Grey's Anatomy star not only won an Emmy for Best Supporting Actress in a Dramatic Series, but she also began transitioning into the big screen with the success of her first feature comedy, Knocked Up, alongside comedy legend Seth Rogen. Unfortunately, her rise to the top quickly became a free fall into a volcano following an ill-fated Vanity Fair interview the following January. In the interview, Katherine made a move that still has people scratching their heads to this day. She openly bashed the film that made her famous, claiming that it painted women as shrew, humorless, and uptight, while also placing blame on Seth for writing the men as lovable, goofy, fun guys. The film still sits at an impressive 89% on Rotten Tomatoes because while she may claim that the project was problematic, the final product was a fun love story filled with some pretty solid jokes, and performances, and a great story. Seth felt betrayed by the comments as they never had a fight on set, and it never seemed like she was uncomfortable at any point. These comments, combined with some negativity towards her Grey's Anatomy writers, caused her agents to drop her as a client, and her time in Hollywood slowly came to a halt. These days she stars in the CBS comedy Our House, but it's looking like she may never return to the big screen. Number 4. Brie Larson. Brie was announced as the newest member of the Marvel Universe in 2019, starring in the film Captain Marvel as the titular superhero. At first, people were pretty excited to see what Marvel would do with this property. Captain Marvel is, after all, one of the original cosmic heroes in comic book canon, and I know I'm a nerd, leave me alone. However, when the movie was actually released, fans were pretty upset with Brie's performance. According to them, she was stale and seemed bored from start to finish. When asked about the online hate at the D23 red carpet in 2022, Brie said she's not sure if she's going to continue to play the character beyond her upcoming Captain Marvel sequel, The Marvels. She's aware of all the hate surrounding her character and defends that role by telling people that's how she was told to play the role. But it's also Brie Larson. She's always been stiff, but that's kind of part of why it's funny. Go watch Scott Pilgrim, you ninnies! Overall, she doesn't sound as terrible as some of the other entries on this list, but the way she has responded to interviewers in the past has pegged her as a Miss Marvel meanie. Number 3. Paula Abdul. In 2012, famous judge and British bad boy Simon Cowell decided to fire his fellow X Factor judge after she went on Fox News and made herself sound just a little bit like a fool. During an interview with Q13, things start out a little rocky thanks to some audio issues causing Paula to hear a station in Texas instead of the one that she was trying to talk to. When they eventually got everything up and running, Paula was just as confusing as she was with the original audio issue. The interviewers were trying to ask her about her visit to Seattle, where Simon claimed that the worst singers he has ever encountered dwell. But instead of defending the city, Paula doubled down and agreed with Simon. But it's not the statement though that landed her in the hot seat, it was the way she was speaking. Paula had always been a little bit animated in her life, using her arms a lot when speaking to people, but she was particularly slurry and she seemed like she was under the influence of something. This was just one of several interviews where Paula was noticeably woozy. Simon's actually claimed that the only reason she was invited to host on the X Factor in the first place was to see that if she would bring in the American Idol viewers. When that didn't pan out, he realized that the right move to make was just to let her go and move on to greener pastures. Of course, Paula was mad about this and confronted Simon several times, only digging herself further and further into that hole. Number 2. Tom Cruise. Matt Lauer is not just a terrible man who turned out to be a creepy creepo. He was once a popular talk show host in the early 2000s. During an interview with Tom Cruise in 2005, the topic of his scientific beliefs came up that quickly sent Tom into a rant about psychiatry. Somehow the topic got into Ritalin and pseudosciences. I don't know. Tom yelled at Matt about knowing more than him about psychiatry. Like he had some inside information that he was secretly a therapist or something. The interview came at the height of Tom's very public descent into chaotic badness, becoming very famous for his outlandish beliefs and his wish to push them onto other people. The highlight of the interview came when Cruise was asked about his previous criticism of Brooke Shields taking anti-sad time pills, to which he responded by calling her a glib. And I looked up the definition. That means fluent and voluble, but insecure and shallow. This was only one of several interviews from 2005 that we could discuss today. When he was with Katie Holmes, he was a bit of a nutcase. Just ask Oprah Winfrey. Ever since the mid-2000s, Tom's career has been mainly in the Mission Impossible movies, with only a few small roles to fill the gaps here and there. Not the Hollywood superstar that he was aiming to be. And at number 1, Lance Armstrong. 7-time Tour de France winner Lance Armstrong has gone down in history as a man who was unable to ride a bike without his chemical training wheels. In an interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2013, Lance was brought on to discuss the allegations floating around regarding his status as a Tour de France winner. Several sources claimed that Lance had taken performance-enhancing substances to win each of his races, as well as a type of transfusion involving the red life juice that flows inside all of us. Armstrong went on air and fessed up to every single thing that they were claiming he had done. However, he did deny the notion that he was some kind of a mastermind who would control his teammates and force them to join in his extracurricular activities. But amidst his admission of guilt, say that 10 times fast, there was a moment where he tried to pin the situation on his battle with cancer. He wraps it up by saying that he should have tried harder to cancel the culture rather than create more of a problem. He was stripped of all 7 Tour de France titles, and he has since lived in exile among the cycling world.
Starting off our list today at number 10, we have Liam Hemsworth. Thanks to Miley Cyrus's new hit song Flowers, it's been number 1 on the Billboard for 3 weeks, and because the song is so popular, it resurfaced a couple of clips that shows Liam Hemsworth visibly cringing at his ex-wife Miley Cyrus on the red carpet during interviews. In one video, Miley could be seen twerking on Liam at a Vanity Fair Oscars after party in February of 2019. As the two were being interviewed, Liam then backed away quickly and looked incredibly uncomfortable as she danced for the cameras, to which he responded by saying, "Don't do it, don't do it, you're scarring everyone on the red carpet." Miley then immediately stopped and glanced awkwardly at the camera. In another clip uploaded, the couple could be seen attending the Avengers Endgame premiere, and the singer tried to pose cheekily with her husband, and she made this move to lick his neck, and Liam was displeased and told Miley to behave for once. And when he went on to cling onto her waist, she seemed to be very annoyed at his gesture and pushed his hand away, which resulted in him walking away while she continued posing on her own. Number 9, Dakota Johnson. What was supposed to be a sweet mother and daughter moment during the Oscars red carpet show ended up becoming one of the night's most awkward interviews, when ABC host Laura Spencer asked the actress Melanie Griffith if she was going to see her daughter's racy movie 50 Shades of Grey. The actress would then quickly respond no before her daughter Dakota Johnson scowled and said, "Maybe one day." However, then her mom would respond by saying, "I don't think I can. I think it would be strange. Well, she's a good actress. I don't need to see that to know she's good." The subject was obviously still a sore subject, and the sticking point between the pair as Dakota then jumped into a pouting teenager for a moment before snapping at her mother by saying, "Alright, you don't have to see it, Jesus Christ." The uncomfortable exchange between the two then set social media on fire, inspiring some harsh criticism and some pretty serious tweets. However, near the end of the night, Melanie would opt to tell Dakota that she would watch the film just so she could smooth things over between her and her daughter. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming number 8, we have Shailene Woodley. So during most interviews, Shailene Woodley is always known for being really blunt when it comes to her answering questions, especially when the questions make her feel uncomfortable. During one incident on the red carpet, Shailene had a pretty awkward encounter that caused her to be dumbfounded when it came to the reporter's question. In the interview, the reporter looked at the actor and then out of nowhere asked her if she was hungry before noting that she herself was hungry. Shailene then reacted in a way that was pretty awkward and rude in the moment, as she looked at her interviewer like she was crazy and said, "Well, you should probably eat." I don't think any of us really blame Shailene in this situation for being rude, as it was such a weird question and comment to come from a reporter. Not to mention, there were so many questions that the reporter could have asked her, but she chose to ask the actor if she was hungry, because you aren't going to get a genuinely nice answer to that question. Number 7, Selena Gomez. During a red carpet interview in 2017, Billboard Woman in Music event, Selena would be asked about how Justin Bieber impacted the person she is today, and the singer and actor responded by being a little standoffish when she said, "I don't think anyone else cares. I think for me, what's been great is that I've been able to live the life I wanted for myself, and it doesn't always look the way people think it should. But it's not really my concern anymore. Look, my family is great, my health is great, I love deeply, and that's just who I am." him. I'm not really ashamed. While the actress claimed that no one really cared about her and Justin's relationship, the Twitter reactions would definitely prove otherwise. To Selena's response, as one fan would say, Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber will definitely last this time if they're both on the same page romantically. And then another fan would note, so as dumb as this sounds, I'm so happy when I heard Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez are back together. It's that relationship I basically grew up with and I feel as if I'm invested in. My heart was so full when I heard the news. Even today, people are still fond on the idea that the former couple may cross paths yet again in the future, and it's gotten to the point that every time Justin is happy with another woman, his fans still chant Selena's name. Number 6, Jim Carrey. Back in 2017, Jim Carrey was clearly just really bored, so the comedian decided he would randomly show up to a New York red carpet event. While on the red carpet, he made his way to a reporter, and then he ended up telling her that the only reason he showed up to the event is because he was trying to find the most meaningless event he could attend. If the interview wouldn't get any more funnier due to his odd behavior, he then went on this really weird rant where he stated that icons and personalities don't really exist by saying, I don't believe in icons, I don't believe in personalities. I believe that peace lies beyond personality, an invitation in disguise, beyond the red S on your chest that makes bullets bounce off. I believe that it's deeper than that. I believe we're a field of energy dancing for itself and I don't care. He then turned into one of his comedic characters before walking away when he came to the conclusion to his rant and said, we don't matter. Number 5, Kim Kardashian. Back in 2019, Kim Kardashian awkwardly interrupted her older sister during an interview on the E! People's Choice Awards red carpet. When E! anchor Juliana Rancic asked Kourtney Kardashian who designed her bra-bearing glittering suit, she began to say she didn't plan her answer in advance, but then she was cut off when Kim decided to lunge in front of her and start to hype their new fragrance collaboration by saying, all that matters is that we're wearing KKW Diamond. We're all wearing that. She then went on to tell Kourtney, I was saving you since you didn't know who you were wearing. That was my save. Kourtney then went on to correct Kim by saying, no, it was Naeem Khan. I just didn't know how to pronounce it. Despite the awkward moment, Kourtney didn't appear to mind the publicity, but Kim didn't need to interrupt her sister's interview to support her new line, as the world was already talking about it. Number 4, Jennifer Lawrence. So back in 2012, Josh Hutcherson was in an interview on the red carpet for the Catching Fire press tour when Jennifer Lawrence thought it would be a good idea to punk her co-star while he was in mid-interview by asking him how his rash was doing. Later, Josh would then open up about the incident on the Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and there he would reveal that Jennifer had this history of punking him, and while making rounds on the red carpet, he then admitted at one time mid-interview she breezed past him and asked him, hey Josh, how's the rash doing? Josh then looked extremely embarrassed before he went on to note that Jennifer was actually really crazy. The reporter then went on to question Josh about the incident, and he said, oh, my rash, yeah, my rash is doing fantastic. Don't worry about that. I love Jennifer. The actor was obviously really uncomfortable with Jennifer's uncalled move, that he wanted to end the interview and opted to say, I gotta go back to take care of the rash before running away from his interview. Number 3, Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj is known for speaking her mind, so back in 2013, after she had a mouthful to say after a not-so-good interview with Access Hollywood's correspondent, Laura Saltman, the Anaconda rapper would then throw some serious shade at the reporter on the red carpet after Laura asked the rapper about her recent Twitter rant, which included catty words about fellow American Idol judge Mariah Carey, and she snapped back and refused to answer the question. When Laura asked, are you looking forward to the end of American Idol? Because I know there were Twitter comments you made today that caused quite a stir. Nicki would then respond by saying, that question didn't even make sense, so if you want to insinuate what you're talking about, I'm not going to. Before Laura could even respond, Nicki would then roll her eyes, say goodnight, and walk away. In light of the diss, Saltman then decided to express her feelings in a blog posted to Access Hollywood's website, where she labeled Nicki as a mean girl and cyberbullying, perpetuating the problem freedoms of social media. Number 2, Amber Heard. Back in 2015, Amber would be captured giving her mom a stern lesson on the red carpet about the rules she has to follow as her mom joined her at a glitzy film premiere. At the time, Amber was still married to Johnny Depp, and she decided to bring her mother along for the ride at a screening of Johnny's new flick at the time, Black Mass, at Toronto's International Film Festival. Her proud mom then watched from the sidelines as Amber oozed in this striking black dress in front of the camera. However, the actress was less than impressed when she spotted her mom talking to a nearby cameraman. In a video captured, the star's mom could be seen in the video identifying herself to a man from Kiss 92.5, where she proudly gushed, saying she was Amber's mom. Amber then stormed towards her mother and interrupted the interview. And in the video, you could see Amber's face. It was so stony that she may as well have been embarrassed by her mom in front of friends at a playground. She then quickly grabbed her mother, gave her a warning by saying never make eye contact. And coming in at number 1 today, we have Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman wasn't necessarily rude, but she did get a pretty funny response from Tom Hiddleston when she briefly interrupted him during an interview at the Golden Globes one year. Tom was in the middle of his interview talking to Liza Koshy about one of his shows, and Nicole decided to insert herself in between Tom and Liza and then quickly said, "That's enough talking." While Nicole was clearly just pulling Tom's leg, at first he was a bit taken back by Nicole's actions, and it did take him a bit to notice that Nicole was doing a quirky little bit. Once the actor realized Nicole was only joking, he then quickly joined in on the fun. He then conducted a quick impromptu moment in the interview with Nicole, and it was definitely a moment that was awkward for a second, but then everybody laughed it off.
At number 10, Piers Morgan. It is crazy to think that this person ruined their career because they didn't want to take someone's mental health seriously. TV presenter Piers Morgan had a lot to say after Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's bombshell interview. The insight that this royal couple shared in the interview were full of bombshell secrets and testimonies, and also included some serious allegations as they showed the public a new part of themselves, looking deeper into the lives of Meghan and Harry. One person who relentlessly picked the couple's interview apart was Piers Morgan, and his actions on his TV program ended his career in seconds and also led to him getting cancelled online. During the interview, Meghan Markle opened up about her mental health and how it was affected being part of the royal family, saying that there was once a point after she married into the family that she wanted to take her own life. Piers spoke about this on air of Good Morning Britain and said that he, quote, didn't believe a word she said. After Piers made those harsh comments, he started to face massive backlash from all sides, as people said that his comments on Meghan's mental health were diminishing and disrespectful. The studio he worked for, as well as Piers himself, started receiving harsh comments, and so Piers actually decided to leave his position at Good Morning Britain. He has since refused to apologize, and no one really wants to work with him after all of this drama, so it could be that his career is finished. At number 9, Chris Harrison. Bachelor Nation was in fury when a scandal took over the recent Bachelor season. It all started when a contestant's questionable past came to light, and fans of the show started grabbing their pitchforks on Twitter demanding accountability. Now, when Chris Harrison, the show's longtime host, tried to do some damage control, that's where things really got heated, and it did not end well for him. When asked about the scandal involving a Bachelor contestant in an interview, Chris went on to seemingly defend this contestant, where he said, quote, "We all need to have a little grace, a little understanding, a little compassion. Because I've seen some stuff online, this judge, jury, executioner thing. I haven't heard Rachel speak on this yet. Until I actually hear this woman have a chance to speak, who am I to say any of this?" End quote. People found his comments to be offensive and insensitive, saying that he was too quick to defend this contestant's actions. Even though he sort of tried to justify his comments, making it so that he wasn't necessarily defending this contestant, the fans still came for blood, and they got it. After everything was said and done, Chris ended up leaving the show, effectively ending his career after this one talk show interview. Now, before I carry on with the list, I would like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also maybe consider checking out my gaming channel, Viper Girl. I've got lots of fun stuff going on over there, and I upload daily, so come check it out and subscribe while you're there. At number 8, Sinead O'Connor. SNL is one of the most popular and successful variety/talk shows out there, and because it's so popular, things can often go wrong with so many people watching and so much on the line for people's careers. One of the biggest scandals to come from SNL is probably the one involving Sinead O'Connor and how she called out the Catholic Church during a performance in 1992 that effectively destroyed her career. On this episode, Sinead was asked to perform a few songs for her newest album at the time, and though she agreed, there was a little fine print to accompany her appearance. Sinead asked to perform a rendition of Bob Marley's song War instead of a piece from her own album. That night, she got up on stage, sang the song, changed up the context of some of the lines, and made a bold statement at the end after she held up a photo of Pope John Paul II and tore it up in a show of defiance against the Catholic Church. She did all this as a means to raise awareness about some of the allegations that were against the Catholic Church because she had personal experience with those who were allegedly hurt by members of said church, and she wanted to fight against it. This stunt angered a lot of people because for days following the performance, NBC received thousands of angry calls condemning them for allowing something like this to happen. Other celebrities like Madonna and Joe Pesci also had some harsh words for Sinead. After that event, no one wanted to work with her ever again, and her career pretty much went down the tubes soon after. At number 7, Carmen. For people trying to make it big in Hollywood and in the music industry, the idea is to get yourself in front of as many people as possible to build up your reputation. So when you're asked to be a judge on a talk show, that is a huge deal, but only if it goes smoothly, and for the music duo Carmen, that is certainly not what happened because after a botched SNL performance, their career was over. Carmen, though now disbanded and rebranded, was a music duo who got their start on YouTube by posting covers of a lot of popular songs like Party Rock Anthem and Super Bass. Eventually, they got a large following, leading them to getting noticed by a casting director over at SNL. They invited the duo to perform on the show, and they sang a couple songs, but after the show, when the ratings came in, it wasn't looking good for Carmen. They got some pretty harsh reviews, and this completely tanked their career. One critic even said that their performance caused, quote, mild auditory distress. They were never really able to bounce back from this catastrophe of a performance, and so they eventually faded away, ending their careers. At number 6, Bill Maher. We should all know by now that language has the ability to do a lot. It can be good for when you're making positive changes, but it can also come back to bite you if you say something that isn't so nice. Some people, however, aren't very conscious of this, and their harsh and sometimes offensive language can cause them to face massive backlash and can even end their career. Take talk show host Bill Maher, for example. On his HBO show Real Time with Bill Maher, he dropped the N-word while talking to Senator Bill Sass, and as you can imagine, it did not end well for him. During his interview, the senator told Bill that he would like to invite him to Nebraska and, quote, have you work in the fields with us. To that, Bill replied, scoffing at the idea, saying, quote, I'm not a house N-word. After those words were uttered, the fury came from the public in condemning his use of that word. Bill claimed to have been using the word in a joking manner, but that still doesn't take away from the gravity of uttering that word in the first place. Bill was subsequently ripped apart by his audience and even other late-night personalities like Stephen Colbert. After this scandal, his career was never really the same because many people aren't quick to forget these things. At number 5, Sharon Osbourne. Talk show host Sharon Osbourne found herself in some hot water earlier this year after she made some comments about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry that not only caused her to get backlash but also lose a friend. Sharon Osbourne and Cheryl Underwood got into a heated argument surrounding Piers Morgan's remarks about Meghan Markle. During this feud, Sharon backed up Piers's comments about Meghan Markle's mental health, and this frustrated Cheryl because she didn't like the comments that were being made about those involved. The two got into a very heated debate and ended with a lot of drama and sparking a conversation about Sharon's ideals. She was called a racist, and a number of other accusations came out about her and how she's used various slurs in the past when talking about her other co-hosts. As a result of this, the network for their show launched an internal investigation that ended with Sharon being let go from the show. Sharon had been part of the show for so long that her firing certainly altered her career quite a lot. At number 4, Kelly Osbourne. Now, we just talked about Sharon Osbourne and her recent talk show scandal, but her daughter Kelly has also been in her fair share of controversies, including one that also happened while on a talk show that kind of ruined her career. During an episode of The View, Kelly Osbourne really missed the mark while trying to clap back at Donald Trump, and even though she was trying to diss Trump, she ended up getting in enough trouble herself. Just shortly before this episode aired, Donald Trump, who was at the time only a presidential nominee, was saying offensive things about the Latinx community and how he wanted to deport them. I am sure we are all too familiar with this whole concept. concept. Well, in a very poor attempt at clapping back at Trump's racist comments, Kelly said, quote, "If you kick every Latino out of this country, then who's going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?" What Kelly was trying to do was defend the Latinx community, but rather than stand up for them, she ended up offending them even more, as her remarks were interpreted as saying that the Latinx community is only good for being housekeepers, as depicted in many racial stereotypes. After facing so much backlash and realizing the gravity of her words, Kelly issued an apology saying, quote, "I want to start by saying I always take responsibilities for my actions. In this particular case, I will take responsibility for my poor choice of words, but I will not apologize for being a racist, as I am not." End quote. Kelly completely missed the mark on that one, and it certainly hurt her career. At number 3, Paula Deen. At one point, we all thought that Paula Deen was just a sweet southern mom who liked butter a little too much, but after 2013, she took on a very different label as she was exposed for being pretty racist following a lawsuit that showed the world what she was like behind the scenes. After being deposed, the truth came out after Paula was asked if she had ever used the N-word, and she said yes. This certainly was not good for her image, so she went on damage control to really take the heat off her, but instead of getting things to die down faster, her appearance on the Today Show caused things to get so much worse. Instead of owning up to her actions and trying to clear her name, as most people would try to do in that kind of situation, Paula instead deflected the criticism she was facing and even voiced how shocked she was that so many people were taking offense to her actions. The fact that she didn't even take accountability for her actions rubbed a lot of people the wrong way and just ended up making the situation so much worse for her and pretty much ended her career after that. At number 2, James Corden. Recently, TV host James Corden has found himself in trouble with fans after his Spill Your Guts segment from the show started facing backlash with fans. Fans are calling for James to take accountability after he made some comments about some Asian foods that he had on the show, because some fans thought this was really offensive. Because the foods that they use in the Spill Your Guts segment are supposed to be ones that you wouldn't want to eat, the fact that some Asian foods like balut were used and called, quote, disgusting, made a lot of people take to the internet to call for accountability and an apology from James Corden. Apparently, James has been making these types of comments about a lot of different Asian dishes on a few occasions, so some people have said enough is enough, and some have even created a petition calling for the removal of the Spill Your Guts segment. Since James has been facing cancellation for this lately, do you think his career is in serious jeopardy, or do you think this will all blow over without any repercussions? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And finally, at number 1, Ellen DeGeneres. The number 1 person on this list who ruined their career on a talk show is no doubt Ellen DeGeneres. In 2020, we watched the comedian and talk show host fall rapidly from grace as allegation after allegation came out, painting Ellen as a nightmare to work with, among other things. She faced so much backlash from things like the treatment of her staff to comments about lockdown and the Black Lives Matter movement. Because of the events of last year, she lost a lot of credibility and respect in the industry, and her show lost a lot of ratings and advertisers as well. She really lost everything and has recently announced that her show will be ending after this last season, making it seem like her career is well and truly over. Now, I want you guys to tell me about an embarrassing moment that happened recently to you or someone you know. Don't spare any of those juicy details. I promise we won't cringe too hard. We're all in this together.